30% of our hospital beds are taken by patients in the last year of life. This is important because we know that most patients don't want to be in hospital. We also know that particularly when you're frail, hospital admissions can cause harm. We've created this video for patients to explain the importance of shared decision-making and proactive holistic care.
It's done a good job for me, so it's difficult. I'm not a critic, I'm a great defender. I hear moaning about the NHS, and I say, well, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the NHS. And I think I've had quite superb treatment. I think it helps if you can articulate what is wrong with you, although sometimes you don't know, and sort of explain it. And I think a lot of people, perhaps my age, I've got a couple of friends up there and in the flats, I think they'd be very reluctant to really tell doctors exactly how they feel about something. They were telling about pain and what's hurting, but they're quite reluctant to say everything that might be concerning them.
I would say that in terms of being part of the decision-making process, the first time that really happened to us was during COVID, when we had the matrons coming in from hospital at home. And it was the first time ever that I felt we were part of the decision-making, and Rosie's wishes were taken into account in terms of her health, because it was about Rosie's health, but also what I was capable of and willing to do. So it was discussed with us. And then sometimes I would say I could do this, and they'd say, really? Yeah, is that practical? Can you cope with that? But over time, between myself and the nurses and the visiting GP, we agreed a way of working. And I felt safe, Rosie felt safe, Rosie felt heard, because before, GPs in the community would tend to talk to me about her, and they'd forget to talk to her. Yeah, and it's the same when we're out with the wheelchair. Even now, people will talk over Rosie's head. But for the last 2 years, 3 years, we've had the hospital at home team. We've worked together, and in that time, we've kept Rosie away from hospital. Clinicians sometimes, when you're the carer, sometimes you get the impression that they're treating you as an over-fussy person. If you keep ringing them up about issues and problems, that can wear on them, And I mean, I have had doctors say to me, well, what do you want us to do about it? And I say, well, okay, well, if you don't know what to do about it, what on earth am I supposed to do? How do I cope with someone who's getting into an anxious state or whatever? But by working with the same clinicians all the time, and it doesn't have to be exactly the same people, but just people who know Rosie. The thing that drives me completely insane, right, is there's almost an assumption by a clinician that there's a fix, that they can treat Rosie and she'll be better. Rosie will never, ever be well again. It's a question of managing that to the least detriment of her. But in managing that to the least detriment of her helps me, because then I'm not constantly worrying, discussing. I get a chance to walk out the door and go for a walk with my dog without worrying, well, what am I going to say to the doctor? Why isn't this working? And you just go round and round and round, and it just drives me insane. And I think that if we really are going to manage people like my Rosie at home, then the system has to bear that in mind. And when you're dealing with that level of complexity, the more information you give in plain English, because discharge letters from hospital are a bit of a problem, because it's code and you don't always understand. But since then, myself and Rosie feel much safer. We're confident, and we're confident in the practitioners that deal with Rosie, because they take the time to talk to us.
I do think that in terms of decision making, the doctors are very good at prescribing, but listening to your concerns, I think, are not always the top of their priority. I think time is short. I think a lot of places are still on COVID catch-up. And for me, I will be heard one way or another. But I do feel there are so many people who will just take a drug, take another drug, and take another drug. And then with no involvement in their care.